Hello, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome
Um,
to our YouTube live. Let's give you a minute to hop on. It is wonderful to not see you tonight, but I'm imagining that you're all there. And welcome. So let me first, before we begin, I'm going to like to introduce you all to a couple of people. Then I'm going to turn it over to Zachary to do a land acknowledgement, and then we'll get going. My name is Marie Renaud. I'm the MLA for St. Albert, and I am the Shadow Minister for Social Services. Here we have Zachary Weeks, who's an amazing disability advocate. And also on the screen, we have Michelle, who is with Cerebral Palsy Alberta, and she is our very special guest tonight. She actually has, well, I'm going to let her tell you more about it, but she has done some extraordinary advocacy work, and she's here tonight to teach us some things and tell us about some things. So we're going to get going. But first, before we start, I'm going to turn this over to Zachary, who's going to do a quick land acknowledgement for us.
all right, well, it is my honor to give this one acknowledgement before we get started. So I just want to say that I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territories of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. We recognize and honor the diverse indigenous people whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community today.
Awesome. Thank you, Zachary. And also with us, we have some amazing ASL interpreters. We have Brianne and we have Janice who are here with us and helping us out so we can be as accessible as possible. So I thank them. Thank you also to the staff that have joined us. I know that you can't see them, but we certainly can. And we could never do this without them, Dave and Rick. So a couple quick things, a couple of rules. As always, please be kind to each other in the chat. Please don't be abusive. If you have questions, we would love to hear your questions and comments. Make sure you tell us your name so we know who you are. If you want to include where you're from, that would be fabulous too. If anybody chooses to be abusive in the chat, we will remove you. So just letting you know that. If you're not signed up with us, we're actually going to do a follow-up email tomorrow for you. So any of the information, like the links or the copies of things that we're going to share with you tonight, we're also going to send out by email tomorrow, just as a reminder, so you have handy access. So if you haven't signed up for a previous town hall with myself and Zachary, I'm going to get one of the staff to put a link in the chat so that you can sign up now so that you're included in the email that we're going to send.
So we said, let's hop on YouTube. Let's bring in the experts, because I'm certainly not an expert. Marie isn't, but I know I know some people that are, aka Michelle. We started off by inviting her, and we're so excited to have her here. And we're going to be asking her questions. You can ask questions as well. And I think we're going to go for about an hour and see how that goes. And if we get lots of questions, we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah, we got lots of questions. We're willing to stay for another half hour and answer more. So, got lots of time, lots of questions, and lots of expertise. And, there's been a lot going on behind the scenes. I know it's easy to get sort of wrapped up in the day to day. Oh my God, the budget, or oh my God, they're cutting AISH and they're hiding wait lists and they're doing this in disability services. And what are you guys doing about it? There's actually been a lot going on, and a lot of this is real grassroots organizing, and it's starting to sort of get a bit more sophisticated and build some steam. And so we wanted to let you know about some of the things that are going on so you too can learn some of these skills and join us, because this is going to be a massive effort and require all of us to be pulling in the same direction. And as we always say, this is a marathon and not a sprint. So with that, we're going to stop talking and we're going to turn it over to Michelle, and she's going to give us a highlight and start to talk to us about some advocacy. And then we're going to look at the questions. So add your comments and questions, and we're going to try to get to as many as we can with Michelle and ourselves try to answer. So off you go, Michelle.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, Marie, and thanks, Zachary. So hello, everyone, and welcome. Glad to have you here, even though I can't see you. Like they said, we'll be monitoring the chat, so we'll be hearing what you're saying. But when I started to write it down, I was like, wow, there's been a lot that's happened. So there was a number of rallies that were held last year. So we had the Act Now rally that happened in May. Now that was under Barrier Free Alberta, whose sole purpose is to advocate for accessibility legislation. But when all of those announcements started happening, we realized, no way, we can't just talk about accessibility legislation. We need to bring all of it in. So the FSCD, PDD waitlist, it was the clawback of the Canada Disability Benefit, it was the announcement of ADAP, all of those things. So we went to the legislature, and not only did we go to the legislature and do the rally, but we had, I think, 60 people or 60 people plus that went to question period. So we flooded the gallery with people with disabilities there to see what happens and how that works. And it was kind of interesting to see even how the staff at the legislature responded to people with, you know, bringing in their different pieces of equipment that were necessary, and they were like, what's going on? So it was a test to everyone involved. I thought that was really cool. So that was a success. Moving ahead back to October, we had the a deadly ableist plan, and that was that's the acronym that was created for ADAP, and that was the rally that was held on October 30th. And that was fantastic. Another opportunity to say this is harmful to the disability community. We've seen collaborative relationships happen outside of our own community. So whether that be with food groups or poverty groups or different municipalities, we've seen a variety of things, academics getting involved and saying, whoa, this is not cool. We're going to do some research, we're going to do some studies, we're going to participate in this. So a lot of cross sections or sectors coming together with, you know, shared clients. So that, I thought that was really cool. A shout out to Daryl Leary, who started the ADAP petition. And I can't remember, Daryl, I meant to check how many the signatures we have, but it's over 4,000. So that was amazing. You know, that was both online and in person. So that will be being tabled. We saw letter campaigns. We saw those happening all over the place. Lots of letter campaigns. People saying, no, this is not cool. We're not happy with this. You cannot make these changes without consultation. We've seen unprecedented media coverage. And I think Rick will put it in the chat. I just need to have a sip because I'm already getting dry. There we go. Inclusion Alberta did a great job of curating all of the media coverage that happened over the last 14 months. So that will be dropped in and you can see how much was covered. We haven't seen that happen, I don't know if ever. So that was really cool. People are listening, even though it seems like they're not, you know, these stories are getting out, whether those are op-eds or opinion pieces, or whether they're stories, whether they're like written stories or, you know, TV stories, they're getting out there. We've seen previous disability leaders, past chairs of the disability community standing up and saying no. You know, they wrote an open letter. They did. They also did a petition campaign that was online, so that was available to folks. They did follow up on that. That was all in regards to the Alberta Disability Assistance Program and the clawback of the CDB. So we've seen that. We've seen increased opportunities for learning. We've seen, you know, someone like Vanderleek Law came forward and started participating in Lunch and Learns and doing their own podcast talking about some of this to help educate and get the word out for people. We saw the creation of the People's Alliance for Disabled Albertans that was there to fill the gaps. Because what happened is when all of this was occurring, a lot of disability organizations, and I know this is very difficult for the community, were apprehensive to step forward because of funding issues. But then PATA was created to fill that gap. And I think that was a really cool idea and a really cool concept. And if you're involved in that, terrific. If you're not, we can give you all the information to hook you up. So that's kind of an overview of what's happened.
I have a question for you, Michelle. So, I mean, you guys have been busy, right? So this is, I mean, you're making it sound like these things just happen. I mean, we sort of know that all the effort that went in behind that, right? Like all of the teaching and the work. I wonder if you could talk about like some of the work that was undertaken to, you know, in different communities like Lethbridge, Camrose, Edmonton, and what was the other one?
Nurse home.
Care home. Yeah, so all of those councils have actually agreed to write a letter to the minister saying they're very worried about the changes to AISH and then ADAP, of course. But we know that that comes from somewhere, right? So that the advocacy is coming from somewhere. So I wonder if you can maybe touch on that a little bit, Michelle, like some of the organizing that went in or the teaching that went in for some of these things to happen, and how can people sort of follow that lead?
Yeah, I mean that was we've got Zachary here with us. I mean he had a conversation with a city councilor in Edmonton, and they said like, what could we do? And they took that forward. A notice of motion was brought forward to the Edmonton City Council. They unanimously were in support of it. So they're calling to pause ADAP until there's further consultation, because we know that the consultation was not done, and there was no meaningful or accessible consultation done. So they're saying, let's pause this until that can be assessed, looking at the impact of reducing benefits and changing this program and the employability of people with disabilities. Right. And then we saw that happening in Lethbridge, Claire's home, in Camrose. So we actually have some tools. We do have a template letter for people if they want to take that to their municipality and bring that, request a notice of motion for. Let's get all the municipalities around there, because this is an important issue. What happens at the provincial level will leak down to the municipal level. So it is in the best interest of city councils to stand up and take notice. So we have that available for folks to use. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, just like people are elected at a provincial level to represent their constituents, people on city councils, whether it's a town or a village or a large city like Calgary or Edmonton or mid-sized city, like they all have represented bodies. And so all of us have people that we can speak to that represent us. So I think it's really important that people always be respectful, always be kind, but reach out to your representative and talk to them about what's bothering you around disability services. And I think Michelle and her organization have developed some really great tools and clearly are having a lot of success right around the province. So this has proved to be a really important tool. So I'm curious what that conversation was with, it was Karen
Tang.
Karen Tang was the counselor.
So shout out to Karen Tang if she's on the call. Thank you for representing your constituents, your residents of Edmonton. And really it revolved around a simple conversation of, again, she's been following the news, and she's like, what's going on with ADAP, and tell me what that means. So I got her up to speed on that, and then she said, well, would a motion help at city council? I think this is important that city council, raise the issues that our people are experiencing, and they're fearful and all that stuff. So it really came out of just a simple conversation, and that speaks to something that I think Michelle, you can touch on, is it doesn't have to be as overwhelming as it sounds to start advocating for your community, because quite often you're advocating for yourself to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think, when we first heard about that motion going forward, it was like, wow, like what does this mean even? And when we saw what they were saying to pause it, like they're making a very concrete request. They're saying, let's pause this and let's take a breather so we can see what this all means for people. And so that made sense. And so, when Lethbridge, Inclusion Lethbridge got involved, and they had a connection with their local council. So, all of it just rolled out. And I think that shows that sometimes we get so focused, and myself included, so focused on what was happening at the provincial level that we were missing opportunities at the municipal level. So I think it's so cool that this started, and now we can maybe see this, mounting and having greater emphasis on some of our municipal governments.
Absolutely. And I mean, the beauty of the advocacy that Michelle is talking about and undertaking is it's happening at multiple levels. So people are still doing all the stuff at the provincial level, writing their letters, going to talk to their MLA, writing to the premier and the minister. But now this very important municipal level where they're going to start communicating with the minister and the premier and saying, whoa, our constituents are telling us this is not good. And so I love this work that y'all are undertaking, is just communicating with all levels of government and talking about what's happening in disability supports in Alberta. Love it.
And I
And we've
think
seen
that,
that. Oh, sorry, Zachary.
go ahead, go ahead.
Well, we've seen that happening elsewhere too. We've seen the Alberta Medical Association. I mean, we've seen other organizations that take a look at what we don't know a lot about ADAP, and I see that there are questions coming in sort of specific about ADAP, and we don't have the answers. We just don't know. They haven't. That information has not been released. So we're trying to deal with what little information we know. But when we're looking at 79,000 people transitioning from AGE to ADAP, we know that's going to be a nightmare. We know we could just anticipate that trying to medically assess 70 or more than 79,000 people. So the Alberta Medical Association is saying, hold on, like this is crazy. GPs are talking about it. So there's more people involved. I was meeting with the YYC Food Collaborative yesterday, and they were like, wow, like this is something we can get our heads around, because they also have shared clients, and this is going to trickle down to them as well. They're already at capacity. So if people are going to be down $200 less on their monthly benefit, they're going to be looking for other services, and that's going to have an impact. So we have a lot of allies that we didn't even know we had. Or maybe we knew we hadn't tapped into them yet, right? So it's a matter of time and seeing who they are.
And it's been kind of a beautiful thing to see these allies popping up in places that I actually was on these other issues, that they're not seeing the devastation to AISH, to ADAPT, that is coming July 1st, or the hidden wait lists and the devastation that's going on there as a result of the lack of service. So before I turn it back to Michelle, and I'm sorry, I have a couple of questions. So I'm going to catch us up with some of the comments and questions, and I'll throw it back to you. So Joanne is asking, and I think a number of people are asking about the clawback. Have any details been released about the employment income clawback from ADAPT? So ADAPT is going to happen July 1st, right? So we know everybody from AISH is going to go to ADAPT, and then they're going to decide who goes back to new AISH and then who stays on ADAPT, and then there's lots of other things that will happen. Now, what Michelle has said earlier and what Zach has said, what we've all said, is that we just don't have any details, and I think this is by design, right? We don't know what's going to happen. We don't actually know what the eligibility even is. What kind of, you were categorized as severely disabled to be on AISH. Now suddenly you're going to get moved to another program. We don't even know what the criteria is. So are you suddenly not severely disabled? We don't know. Nobody knows. I expect, if I had to guess, when we're actually going to see details will be probably way after budget is done, probably after session is done, because they don't want to deal with anybody actually pushing back on their super dangerous plan. So this is a government that has a track record of not being transparent, not sharing information. I don't expect that's going to change. So that's what makes this so incredibly stressful for people out there, just not knowing what's coming. So to answer your question, Joanne, we don't know. They are keeping it secret. They are hiding the details, probably because it's a really dangerous plan. I think if it was something that was actually tested and consulted and made sense and was going to actually make lives better, they would share the information. They are not. There's been a couple of other questions around lawsuits. So I don't know of any lawsuits. That doesn't mean there aren't any. People ask all the time about class action suits. That's not something that we're involved in or that we know about. Doesn't mean they're not out there. But we are looking at other things that we can do, whether that's around reviews, whether that's around appealing. But that will be another session. That will be another YouTube session that's coming, because advocacy doesn't just take one meeting to learn. These are a lot of skills, and we want to teach you everything that we know and have tried so that you all are doing all the same things we are. When you have this many people across the province pushing back, really good things happen. And that's why we're doing this. So long-winded answer. I'm going to turn it back to Michelle.
Well, and to add on to the human rights part is, I know that we were in talks with the Alberta Civil Liberties Research Center to perhaps, and possibly John Humphreys, to offer some human rights workshops coming up in 2026, so people understand how that process, what that process looks like and what's involved in it. So I can't speak specifically to how it relates to ADAP, but we would like to offer some more education about that.
Yeah.
Before we get too far further, because this is an evolving thing. People might be joining us for the first time. What is this ADAP clawback? What is the amount?
Okay, so I
So
think, oh,
yeah, Marie, you go ahead, please.
no, I think that there's a couple things going on. So ADAP will be $200 less than AISH, but AISH is already less than it used to be because they lowered it because people on AISH that qualified got a Canada disability benefit that was $200. So if they qualified for the $200 from the feds, their AISH went down $200 permanently. And then when they get moved to ADAP, if they stay on ADAP, it'll go down another $200 permanently. But the government will say, but you can work, it'll be great. But the problem is, the jobs, there's not a ton of jobs out there. People need support to find the jobs and keep the jobs. Accessible transportation, it certainly has its limitations in Alberta. We all know those other issues. And then yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but I think what we're all worried about is that this is going to deepen the poverty of people with disabilities very quickly. And I think it looks like the government's answer to that is, giving food banks some funding and then funding more mats on shelter floors, which I think we know that is not the answer. Sorry, did you want to add something?
No, I think
Okay.
that summarizes it perfectly.
Okay, I'm going to turn it back to Michelle. Michelle, can I throw a couple questions at you maybe?
Sure.
Okay. So
Throw
Debbie's
it away.
asking, has the City of Calgary Council been approached?
We're in the process of doing that. We've had a number of people reaching out. So I know that I'm sure she's on the line today. She's been posting online that her responses. So yeah, we're pushing on that for sure.
Okay, and I've got another question from Avery. Has there been any discussion among major social service agencies to form a coalition against ADAP?
Well, we have a number that are happening. One part is that we need to continue to educate. So like I said earlier, is that we've got a lot of collaboratives where we have shared clients, but they may not necessarily have a lot of information.
And I know it's critical, is what is the first step that someone should take when trying to advocate effectively around?
Find out what's happening, make information accessible and listen to each other, decide together what action should be taken, take the action and see if it works, and support one another. Because I think what I've seen a lot of is the stress of the last year has really turned our community kind of against one another. We're kind of fighting. We hear something and we're getting defensive or we're getting angry, and we need to stick together. We need to be compassionate and empathetic. We need to be informed. And there's a lot of misinformation because, of course, misinformation comes from fear. So we got to stop, find out what we know. There are things. What's so frustrating about ADAP is that we don't know much. This was a thoughtfully designed program, yet they don't have any details. So how thoughtfully designed can this be? And that's left people just kind of like, what's going on? And I can see in the questions we're getting, people are asking the specifics because we need to know, but we just don't know.
Yeah.
There are a few things you can do, and it sounds kind of, I don't know, empty, but if there's going to be a new medical assessment, I strongly encourage people. I've seen on social media, some people are like, well, my doctor went here and I don't have a doctor. Get a doctor. Do it right now. Don't wait to find out. Get one now. Find out, talk to your medical professionals. Let them know what's happening. They may not know what's going on. We assume they do, but they don't. They've got a whole variety of patients that they've got to, dealing with different things. Get in to see you're connected. That's one thing you can practically do right now with regards to ADAP, is make sure you have the medical support you need. That's what I would recommend right off the top.
Yeah, getting hooked up with the doctor. Yeah, we've got one question. Okay. How many people are on, Dave?
137.
Did he say go?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna do like maybe. Okay, so we're back. So quick question from Avery. So this is Avery's question. So the province put a large amount into the budget for employment services, unlike other budget items, and she's asking if I can speak to that budget. Sure, I can totally speak to that budget. So I can speak to it in great detail, 6 hours worth of detail on March the 10th, which is actually Tuesday. So from 9 to 12, and then again from 3 to 6. It's an all party committee that will be asking very detailed questions about this entire budget, ADAP, AISH, PDD, FSCD, all those things. So we will ask more questions, you'll get more detail, but just off the top, what I will tell you, it looks like a very large amount, like almost $200 million. What you have to understand is that half of that was already there. And that was these are federal dollars actually that pays for these employment programs. So for people that are marginalized, for people that are unemployed, people that are having a hard time finding unemployment, not just people with disabilities, but all kinds of people that are marginalized. And their goal in their own annual report, their success goal was like, I don't know, 65% success finishing the program and, connecting with employment, maintaining employment. So certainly my concern has always been, it's not been a super successful pathway to employment. Now, when you add in the complexity of the supports, perhaps that someone with a severe disability would need to be successfully employed and maintain that employment, are these programs able to do that? Well, I hope that some of them are. I hope that many of them are. But to expect to move everybody July 1st and say, boom, go work, is just unrealistic. So it looks like a large investment, sure. But if you look at the size of the massive cut, the clawback of the Canada Disability Benefit, the unused money for FSCD when people are lingering on wait lists, the cuts to AISH that will come with ADAP, it's a drop in the bucket. So do I think it's enough to actually make a difference and prevent the nightmare that's coming? No, I don't, but you'll hear more on the 10th. So that's a long answer to a short, brief question. But so Matt is asking, have the NDP asked about what the new rigorous assessment process will look like? Yeah, I think more than the NDP have asked. I think incredible advocates right across the province have asked this question. I know you have, I know you have, I know organizations have sent letters because I think we're all just really concerned about what is this going to look like? How can we support people if we don't even know what's going to happen? So yeah. And then finally, one question, there's more questions, but I'll do one more and then I'll go back to you all. Joanne is asking, how can the government pass the changes to AISH and ADAPT when they don't have any other details? I would never agree to a new plan without any details. Excellent question, Joanne. How can they do that? Because they have more votes than us. So they can pretty much do anything they want. They can change the law. They can change the budget. They can cut the budget. They can create new programs. They can create new eligibility. So they can decide severely disabled now means this as opposed to that. That's what they can do. So when you form government, when you have the majority of votes, that gives you the power to do pretty much whatever you want. And so, which is why I remind people that advocacy is brilliantly important because this is the only way that we make changes or pause things right now so people aren't hurt. But ultimately, really the only way to fix this is to replace this government and have a government that actually listens to Albertans. But so we got lots more questions, but I'll hold on to those, but I'm going to turn it back to Michelle because she's got lots of things to tell us about advocating.
Yeah, I mean, I think Joanne's question is really great. And I think, just to speak to that, Bill 12, which was a financial statutes amendment that happened, I guess it was tabled back at the end of November and was passed in December, is they snuck that into a financial statutes amendment. So, thankfully, this is another role where advocates were playing is that this could have gone by and no one would notice, but people are watching and it's not exactly
to support people that will be needed to train or assist those with disabilities. Like how will employment programs help disabled people when the current ones hardly know how to help disabled people and may have no specific training to support, potential employers with disabilities?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll go for it. Oh, Zachary, I've been doing most of the time.
You go ahead. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think that's part of the problem is that, Minister Nixon did make, was talking about the announcement on employment programs. And he said, the amount, at first we thought it was just for disabilities. Then we realized, no, this is across the board. And he made the comment that, it's kind of the same, and it's not the same. I don't think it's the same. And so there's this assumption, I believe, or it seems there's an assumption that, resume writing and some of these things, but I think they're missing the mark in that it is complex. And one of the things we've been very frustrated is we've been advocating for accessibility legislation for years. So accessibility legislation would identify and prevent and remove barriers. And that includes, it's not just ramps and elevators. This is like communication. We have ASL with us tonight. This is a critical piece to making sure that people have accessibility or reduce barriers. But they've ignored this. They just sort of pushed it aside. They think of it as the physical environment. And now they're putting the cart before the horse. So they haven't done the legwork. And I think that's a serious misstep.
Yeah. Did you want to add?
Yeah, no, I just have another question. I'm full of
good.
crap. So for people who want to start advocating but don't know where to begin, what tools or resources are available to help them learn the basics?
Mhm. That's a good question. So there's a couple types of advocacy, just to break it down really simple. Like there's self-advocacy, when I'm going to go and I'm going to advocate for myself. I'm going to go to the doctor and I want a particular test. I'm going to say, I really need this test and these are the reasons why. I'm advocating for myself. There's individual advocacy where you're going to advocate on behalf of, yourself or someone on a particular issue. And then we're talking about systemic advocacy where there's a policy decision or a program that's going to be implemented or not implemented, and we're trying to create change. So it kind of depends what's going on. Now, in this case, we're talking more about systemic advocacy. So some things you can do, like we had talked about, is get as much information as you can. But there's some great guides out there, and the CIB has a really great toolkit for advocacy. March of Dimes has some really great information about how to advocate. Disability Without Poverty, they have I believe it's a monthly town hall, and it's for advocates. So if you don't know how to advocate, join the town hall, and they teach you how to advocate. They set you up with the tools that you need and the information that you require. Inclusion Alberta has really been leading. They've hands down, they've really done a tremendous job in making sure people have the information. And then when you go to their website, it shows you, they give you the templates, they give you directions. So you don't have to do it alone. There's lots of organizations out there that will take you through and guide you along. The
So are
plan
these some of the links that we'll include to send out tomorrow, Michelle, to people?
Yeah,
oh, excellent.
Yeah, we've got them. So everyone will have access to those links. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I think the first point of entry, I guess, into advocating, like Michelle is saying, is, use the links that we're providing you and start to connect with like-minded people. I mean, the best way is, in your own community, obviously do your advocating, but is to join like-minded people and to learn more skills and to advocate together. And, some of the groups that Michelle has mentioned are outstanding advocates, and you would do well to learn from them.
Well, and we've seen, when we saw that last January, when the 3 self-advocacy groups lost their funding, it was devastating because these groups really were teaching people how to empower themselves. Mm-hmm. And, I don't think it's by accident that this happened this way. And so yeah, but those people that have been part of those are out there and they're doing a tremendous job. Like I'm so proud of some of the people that are out there, and I look on social media and they've got answers and they're providing people with information, not just speculation. They're like, here's a website, here's the information. Like they're connecting people. So it's a lot about information. Like
it really is. And Dane is asking us I'm sorry, not Dane. Diane is asking us a question. Great question. What is one actionable step we can all take today to help support this cause? I mean, great question. Maybe we can all answer this. I think if I had to say I could list about 90 things, but if I had to pick the one thing that I would say is an actionable step by every single individual person here is to just think about your own personal circle. Think about your family, your friends, any club you belong to, a church you belong to, a neighborhood that you're part of, a club of any kind, and just make a point of sharing what you have learned or what you know about what's happening in disability world in Alberta. Because I think what we all need to do is make sure as many people as humanly possible within our own spheres of influence understand what's happening. And there's more things you should do, but I'm going to let these guys tell you what they would encourage you to do.
I think for me, we sort of touched on it earlier tonight, is people often get stuck in their own thoughts around taking on advocacy roles and that sort of thing. And so I think the one thing that I would suggest would be an actionable step is to not think about advocating. And what I mean by that is don't uh don't think it's this big glamorous thing. It can be a simple step. The first thing is to decide, yeah, I can do this, and move from there. So get out of your own head and start, talking about things, as Marie said.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How about you, Michelle? What's your one thing that people can do today?
Well, I think, one of the greatest parts of advocacy is storytelling. It's really telling your story. So when you think about, rather than think of, oh, I'm going to be writing a letter to my MLA or writing, it sounds so hoity-toity, but Marie's just a person, whether, she's just a human being. So telling the story. So just
Yeah.
maybe putting down on paper, what is your story? What is it that you want them to know? And just telling your story. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be professional. Coming from the heart is what matters. And so I think storytelling is one actionable item. And it's good to put it down on paper so you don't kind of go all over the place. That's what I would suggest.
That's such a good point, Michelle. Some of the most impactful things that I've ever seen,
Yeah.
ever about, what's going on here in Alberta are just people sort of getting with their phone and recording a message or just typing it, taking a picture and just telling their story. We all have access to social media. We've got these new platforms where individual people are creating their own little spheres of influence and telling
Yeah.
their stories. I think that has been incredibly powerful. And I know it's hard to ignore, right? When we're all doing it and telling stories, personal experience, and what this is doing, it's very powerful. But I'll just add one more thing. If I could encourage everybody today to do one tangible thing, is sign up to get the email tomorrow, because you're going to get some important links that you need to have. We're trying to build a list, right? We're trying to build our own community to advocate together, because this is going to be a marathon.
Yeah.
But if you do anything at all, is join a group, join an advocacy group, whether it's, Disability Without Poverty, whether it's a local Alberta group, and you'll get lots to choose from, whether it's just following a new organization that might align with your values so that they're going to keep you informed about what's going on. But you need to not be alone. You need to find a community, whether it's online or in person, because this is going to get bumpy. This one little workshop or this one little YouTube isn't going to solve anything. But we're all getting stronger because we're talking together, we're learning new skills, we're all deciding this is not okay for us. Like, we are not going to stop pushing back. We just need to do it together, all of us together, and pulling in the same direction. And that's going to take some time to build some skills for all of you to start reaching out to your communities, whether it's your city council, whatever it is. So, yeah.
Faith groups.
Pardon me?
Faith groups.
Faith groups are amazing. So let me ask, the questions are piling up. Let me ask a couple of more, Michelle, to you and Zach. So Debbie's asking, have any journalists been approached to help with advocacy or CBC at noon?
I think the short answer is yes, but we need more people approaching them. The more people that approach them, the bigger the issue they see, and therefore they get the ball rolling with amplifying our voice.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we've seen unprecedented amount of media coverage. Not all of it has been what we wanted it to be, but I would say the majority has. I think that most of the journalists, and I know Zachary's done a number of interviews, and we do media releases, and they've been quite responsive. So I think that's positive in getting the story out. So yeah, so I mean, I certainly think we have the support of the media, whether or not whether or not we count on them to be our advocates, but at least getting that message across is really important. But yeah, I mean, the more we can get, more coverage we can get, the better, because we want the average Joe to know what's going on.
Yeah. So, Michelle, do you have any advice for people? I mean, obviously the big outlets like the big podcasters or the big papers, the big cities, we all know who those are. But any advice for people like in smaller markets, let's say in your town paper or your, what's the best way to approach that kind of advocacy? So approaching like, I don't know, I'm thinking about Morinville has the Morinville News, or, I'm thinking of some smaller communities have little paper. What can people do to try to contact their local radio station or paper?
I think you just reach out with an email. I mean, with the larger outlets, we have to put together a media, a press release, and have them kind of pick it up. But I think in the smaller communities, you've seen some really great stuff. When we had the Act Now rally, we had Elisa was in, like, well, it's a slow news day. Let's run with this. So just keep pushing,
Keep
keep
pushing,
pushing.
keep talking to everybody that you can
Yeah.
think of and keep pushing all the time. Do you have anything to add to
Mm.
that, Zach?
What I will say about keep pushing is to also avoid burnout. And you know, to that point, I'm very flattered by all the compliments from Michelle and yourself, but it can't just be me, it can't be Zachary all the time. It needs to be everyone doing their bit, right? The more people that write the letters, that make the calls, that hop on TikTok, whatever that looks like for you, um, you need to do it, right? Like, I understand people are worried about being judged, but I'd rather be judged for something that I might laugh at myself later about over not doing something.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that speaks too, though, to the fear in the community. And that's something that, when we're talking about our income and losing income, when already people are living below the poverty line, when we're talking about AISH and then this switch to ADAP, it's very real fear. And we've seen people have experienced retribution. People have experienced retribution thing. Like it can really devastate. And some of the consequences of compassion fatigue is like indifference. So imagine if we burn out Zachary and he's indifferent, we're screwed, like,
No,
so we gotta
I
help that man out.
I don't think so. Help a brother out. Gee.
Help a brother out,
Yeah,
exactly.
God. Those are really great points. Like, and I just want to say, listen, the fear is real. Like, I know that most disability organizations, whether they have advocacy roles or not, they all get funding from government. They're all very frightened to speak out. I'm not going to speak to that. Like, I think we all have a role to play. But I understand that people are fearful, right? Because there's a lot at stake. But I will just say, I think that we're always safer together out in public and just being, talking about what's happening together. So again, and I've said this at a number of other events, if you feel like you are being unjustly intimidated, you need to reach out to your MLA. You can certainly send me an email. I'm sure you can send Zach an email or Michelle an email, and we can offer you some resources to use. But because you shouldn't have to navigate this, you have every right to speak out. And so we will do whatever we can to ensure that you have that right protected. Now, what I'm going to say, in the next little bit, we're going to, as I said earlier, we're going back to the legislature next week. And so it's going to be all budget all the time. And so we're going to be completely focused on the provincial budget over the next 2 weeks. First up, like on Tuesday, will be this ministry that holds AISH and ADAP and all of the other things. And so that'll be the topic of conversation. We're going to add the link. Maybe I'll get Rick to put the link in here now. There's Assembly Online is where you go. You can watch all of these things like hearings kind of thing live. You can also come on site to watch in person if you like. You can certainly clip it. You can see the transcript so you can participate. We will be asking very specific questions. Whether or not we get answers, we don't really know, but we're going to do our best. And I know that, I know that advocates will, like they did last year, will likely, be in the room, and there's always media interest. And so people will talk. But if you are watching, post your thoughts online. It's a great idea, or it's a great way to offer your thoughts about what you heard. Did you like any of the answers? Did you want more information about anything? So this is about participating in the democratic process, right? You have to be part of the process to understand what's happening and to really fight back. So this is part of informing yourself about what's happening here at the legislature. So like Zach said, he can't do it alone. I can't do it alone. Michelle can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. But together, we actually can do a lot. Now, I also want to give you some kind of sad news that our internet, you may have noticed, we didn't. Our internet connection is kind of terrible today. And so we were going to extend this and go maybe 90 minutes because we had lots of questions and comments, but I don't think we're going to be able to because we are having some techie problems. So I just want to let you know, I want to thank you all for coming tonight and sharing a little bit of time with us, and let you know we wanted to try a different format. We are working out some of the bugs and kinks to see how it worked.
Just like advocacy.
Just like advocacy. I thought you were going to say something different. Just like advocacy, yes. But we wanted to create a space where we start to talk about more concrete things instead of just, talking about our extraordinary stories or the things that we're encountering. So next up, we're working on some other more specific things. Now we know that people are going to start to get notifications from government very soon. I suspect once the budget is passed, as they start to do some of this work, people are going to find out what's happening about ADAP and where they're going. And we're going to start to talk about what can we do to push back, or how can people start to push back once they find out what's going to happen. So we're starting to develop some tools about what people can do once they find out what's going to happen, how they can start to push back more specifically once they start to get some decisions around their own income. But we're not quite there yet. So we're starting small. We're starting to encourage you to look around your circles. Please connect with your circles. Join some advocacy groups. Watch what is happening. Show up at rallies. Contact your municipal councils. Talk to anybody that will listen about what's happening.
Social media.
What he said.
Post on social media. Tweet, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube. What else is there?
I don't know.
Instagram.
Sure, yeah, Instagram.
Threads. Whatever you use. Blue Sky.
Oh yeah, Blue Sky. Yep, that's right. Threads. Yeah, you said that. Michelle, you have any tips?
Well, one of the things I just wanted to kind of end with is that, the talking politics is always awkward, right? It's like some people want to be involved, some people don't want to be involved. Some people think, well, what is disability doing involved in politics? But the reality is that these decisions that are being made at a government level do trickle down to the average person. All of us being the average person. And so you need to know what's going on. I'm not suggesting you go and join a party or do whatever, but vote, participate, be there, join the assembly online, go to that main estimates meeting, just get involved in any way you can. And I had an article, and we'll send the link out tomorrow, but Marco, who is our client and family support liaison, sent me this article, and I read it. It's from Cochrane News, called "Silence is Accelerating Alberta's Democratic Decline." And it's a great article. We don't want to be silent. And right now, the way the world is it's kind of got us like right and left and this and that. And somewhere in the middle is where, we belong, and letting people know. So don't get disheartened by all of the right and the left and all of that stuff. Participate, just be involved, because these choices that government makes affects you. So you have every right to participate.
Absolutely.
that's my end remarks.
I love it. You know what? Politics is very personal. You might not believe it, but it is. So just like that, decisions are made that will impact your life, whether it's, your child's education, whether it's disability support, whether it's, what CPP looks like when you retire, whether it's RCMP or a different police force that responds to your call. Politics is very personal. And so regularly people, very much like Michelle said, people will even say to me, yeah, I don't do politics. I'm not getting involved. Unfortunately, politics is very personal. The government of the day, the government that is in control, the majority government we have right now, is deciding on the provincial budget, and that provincial budget will decide all kinds of things that will impact your life, from your property taxes to healthcare to everything, disability supports. So informed voting is really important because elections have consequences, and we're seeing that now. So please get involved. Please stay involved. If you don't already follow Michelle or Cerebral Palsy Association or Barrier Free Alberta, if you don't already follow Zachary Weeks, or Disability Without Poverty, or what's the other PATA. What's it stand for again?
People's Alliance for Disabled Albertans.
People's Alliance for Disabled Albertans. Follow some of these groups.
Marie.
Yep, you could follow me on social media on all the ones he listed. There's too many. But yeah, so watch this space. We try our best to do updates to let you know what's happening. I will certainly do a more detailed budget update next week once we're, in budget estimates. That will happen. And then we will do likely another event to teach some different skills, and hopefully we'll have more information by then. So anything you want to add to say goodnight to our friends?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for putting up with our internet tonight. Apologies about that. But more than anything, continue to be kind to each other, have hope, and have each other's back. And let's keep rolling.
Yeah. Michelle, any final thoughts? Final thoughts?
What came out, and just please know that there are many of us working in the background, and it's as soon as we know, you will know. We promise we're not gatekeeping any information. So when we know, you'll know, and we'll do our best to make it understandable, and provide some suggestions for next steps.
Yeah, these are two great people to follow, and they are, like Michelle said, there is no gatekeeping there. They're very upfront and very honest with you about the information they get. So for sure, follow them and watch this space. Listen, this is a marathon. I expect we're going to get to know each other quite well before we change this, but we don't give up ever. We never stop pushing, and I'll be down if we're going to get run over by this. So, but it's going to take some effort on all of our part. We can't do it alone. We need your help. So thank you for joining us tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for coming. Anything you want to add? I already said that. No, I'll just end here. Good night, friends, and hopefully we'll connect again soon.
Take care.